Once, in the heart of a vast and fertile land, there lay the kingdom of Umvubu, a place where life flourished and nature embraced humanity with its bountiful gifts. The kingdom was a patchwork of rolling savannas, dense forests, and winding rivers that sparkled under the sun. Its people lived in harmony with the land, their villages tucked among hills and valleys, where they farmed, fished, and celebrated the rhythms of life. Umvubu was ruled by King Tshaka, a mighty leader whose name echoed in distant lands. He had risen to power as a warrior, uniting neighboring clans through his strength and strategic mind. His palace, built of stone and decorated with the finest carvings of the kingdom, sat atop the highest hill in the capital, overlooking his domain like an eagle's perch. But King Tshaka was a man of pride. He saw himself as the heart of Umvubu, the source of its power and prosperity. Though he was respected, even feared, he rarely descended from his hilltop palace to walk among his people. Instead, he ruled through his advisors, men who echoed his own thoughts and rarely questioned his decisions. In his mind, the wisdom of a king was far greater than that of any villager. One year, the rains that had always blessed Umvubu ceased. The skies, once heavy with dark, nourishing clouds, turned an endless, searing blue. Days turned into weeks, and then months, without a single drop of rain. The rivers that fed the land shrank to muddy trickles. The fields, once lush with maize and millet, became dusty wastelands. The people of Umvubu, who had always trusted the land to provide, began to grow desperate. They gathered in their villages, staring at the cracked earth, their empty granaries, and the thin, hungry faces of their children. Many turned to the palace for help, sending delegations to plead with the king. "Your Majesty," said the leader of one such delegation, a farmer named Jengo, "the drought is killing us. We need your guidance and aid. Surely the gods have given you wisdom to save your people." But Tshaka, sitting on his carved throne, felt the stirrings of frustration. He had no answer for the drought, no solution to their plight. His advisors suggested raising taxes to fill the royal granaries and rationing food for the people. The king agreed, believing that order and discipline would keep his kingdom from descending into chaos. The villagers, however, found the new policies unbearable. "How can we pay taxes when we have no harvest?" they cried. "How can we survive on rations that do not feed even our children?" Whispers of discontent began to spread through Umvubu. The people, once loyal and united, started to grumble against their king. In a small village near the edge of the kingdom lived Nana Zuba, a woman so old that no one remembered her age. Her skin was dark and wrinkled like the bark of an ancient baobab tree, and her eyes sparkled with the wisdom of countless years. Nana Zuba was known for her stories, which she told to children and elders alike, weaving lessons into her words like threads into a tapestry. One evening, as the village sat under the pale light of the moon, listening to Nana Zuba's stories, a young man named Seifu spoke up. "Nana, what good are stories when our stomachs are empty? We need action, not words." The old woman nodded slowly. "You are right, Seifu, but stories can lead to action, and sometimes a single story can change the heart of a king." The villagers murmured among themselves. Could their king, so distant and proud, be reached by an old woman's words? Nana Zuba smiled and lifted a small clay pot from her side. "This pot," she said, "will carry the wisdom of the people to the king, but only if he is willing to listen." The next morning, Nana Zuba set out for the capital, carrying the pot in her hands. When she reached the palace gates, the guards stopped her. "What business does an old woman have with the king?" they asked, laughing. "I bring him a gift," she replied, "the wisdom of his people." The guards were about to send her away when the captain of the guard, curious about the old woman's boldness, decided to inform the king. Tshaka, bored and irritated by the endless complaints of his advisors, agreed to see her. When Nana Zuba entered the royal hall, her small figure seemed dwarfed by its grandeur. The king, seated on his throne, looked down at her with disdain. "What is this gift you bring, old woman?" he demanded. Nana Zuba placed the clay pot at his feet. "This pot holds the wisdom of your people, your majesty, but to understand it, you must come with me and see your kingdom through their eyes." The court erupted in murmurs. How dare this woman speak to the king in such a manner? But Tshaka, intrigued by her confidence, raised his hand for silence. "Very well," he said. "I will humor you, but if this is a waste of my time, you will regret it." Disguised in simple clothes, Tshaka left the palace with Nana Zuba. It was the first time in years that he had walked among his people. Their first stop was the fields, where farmers were working tirelessly to save their crops. Tshaka watched as they dug trenches and built small dams to trap what little rain might fall. One farmer, his hands calloused and cracked, explained their efforts. "We cannot wait for the rains to save us, your majesty. We must prepare the land for when they return." Next, they visited the dry riverbed, where women were digging deep holes in search of underground water. Tshaka marveled at their ingenuity as they used hollow reeds to draw water from the depths. "Even in dryness, water hides," one woman told him. "We must learn to find it." At the edge of the village, they found children collecting wild fruits and herbs. "The land still provides," said an elder who was guiding them, "but only if we respect it." Finally, under the great baobab tree, the villagers had gathered for their evening meal. Despite their struggles, they shared what little they had, ensuring that no one went hungry. They sang songs of hope and told stories of resilience, their voices rising into the starry night. "Unity is our strength," Nana Zuba whispered to Tshaka. "This is the true wealth of your kingdom." By the time they returned to the palace, Tshaka's heart was heavy with shame. He had seen the courage and wisdom of his people, their ingenuity and their unity, and he realized how far removed he had been from their lives. The next morning, Tshaka called a meeting of his advisors. "I have seen the true strength of Umvubu," he announced. "It does not lie in the wealth of the palace or the power of the throne, but in the hands and hearts of its people." He issued new decrees. The royal granaries were opened to feed the hungry, and taxes were suspended until the drought ended. He ordered the construction of water reservoirs and encouraged farmers to share their knowledge of rainwater harvesting. He established councils in every village, where elders and young leaders could voice their ideas and concerns directly to the throne. Most importantly, Tshaka vowed to leave the palace regularly to walk among his people, learning from them and sharing in their joys and struggles. Over time, the kingdom of Umvubu began to heal. The people, inspired by their king's humility and newfound wisdom, worked together with renewed hope. When the rains finally returned, the land burst into life, greener and more fertile than ever before. The clay pot Nana Zuba had given Tshaka remained in the royal hall, a symbol of the lesson he had learned. Moral of the story: leadership is not about power but about humility and the willingness to learn. A community's strength lies in unity and collective wisdom.